You know, if there's ever a franchise I never thought I would see again, it would be the Klonoa series. It's one that, you know, I grew up playing in a way, kind of grew up because as it was coming out, I was coming into like my preteen, teenage years. But, you know, back in 1997, that was a game that really took the world by storm because at that time, games were transitioning away from the 2D side-scrolling platformer, and it was one of the first 2.5D platformers out there that just really changed how we perceived gaming. And back then, you know, it was loved by the fandom. A lot of us, we truly loved it, but the mainstream didn't really catch on to it. You had gaming magazines out there that absolutely loved Klonoa, but they didn't love it enough to where it hit major numbers. And you could also say that about other titles as well, such as Castlevania Symphony of the Night. When it came out at the time, it wasn't loved by the mainstream, but now it's lauded as one of the goats of all goats. So here we are, some 25 years later, after a sequel, some spin-off titles that have dropped on the WonderSwan, the Game Boy Advance, and also a remake that came out in 2008 that should have been the resurgence of the franchise, and it wasn't. Here we are in 2022, and Klonoa is back with a collection that includes Klonoa 1, 2. So the question now is it any good? Should you spend your money on it? And hopefully with this video, we can answer that question. So let's go ahead and get into it.
This wasn't written with your comfort in mind. Nah. Made my decision, wasn't tough to decide. Nah. Me and my boys, we get it done every time. Gotta earn it, you can't just jump in the line. You'll get rushed to the side. I top my division, I've been building since I started. In the parking lot, I parked it. I came in while picking targets. My career cannot be tarnished. I'm a champion regardless. Celebrate, but this a different kind of lucha party. We are not alike.
Before we kick this video off, I want to give a huge shout out to Bandai Namco for providing a review copy of Klonoa Phantasy Reverie Series. This really, as a fan of Klonoa, I've played every game in the series. It is honestly a dream come true to even see Klonoa back in the conversation, back in, you know, the limelight, just in this modern era, because, you know, there's so many franchises that have fallen to the wayside and so many great franchises that fell to the wayside. So to see it back is absolutely shocking. It's just, I'm ecstatic that it's back. So we're going to talk about this collection and so much more. So before we do all that, general reminder, sub to the channel if you haven't already, and if you enjoy content revolving around the Steam Deck, Analog Pocket, game reviews, tech reviews, interviews with the gaming and tech industry, content creators, voice actors, celebrities, and so much more, all here under this umbrella here. So if you enjoy that type of content, make sure you sub to the channel. Also, ding the notification bell, that way you can stay up to date on all the content that comes out. And if you want to support what we do have Patreon over on patreon.com/Mekel Kasanova, as well as channel memberships. And we also have merch on Teespring and TeePublic. So if you want to get a shirt like this, we do have that available as well. And we're working on getting some fitteds out. I just love repping Hawaii through and through. It's my home. It's where I grew up. It's where I'm from. So, you know, I just like to show love for it. But all that being said, let's go ahead and get into this review. Klonoa Phantasy Reverie Series is a collection that consists of a remake and remaster of the Wii remake of Klonoa Door to Phantomile and Klonoa 2 Lunatea's Veil. While it would be easy to assume that these are straight ports of the original games without any real changes, there are, however, several changes and overhauls made to these two games, with three things in particular that stand out the most. Those three things are the most immediately noticeable, and they are that 1, the English voice acting is no longer there and is instead replaced by the PlayStation 1 original's voice acting for all intents and purposes, and 2, the translation is different entirely in Klonoa 1 compared to the original and the remake. And lastly, number 3, which is going to be a long one, and that is that the graphics of 1 and 2 were altered. Klonoa Door to Phantomile uses the Wii version as a basis, yet instead of using the redone character model from that game, which was done to be more in line with Klonoa 2's model of Klonoa, Phantasy Reverie Series instead gives Klonoa his original look from the PlayStation original, along with other graphical changes throughout the game. Klonoa 2 drops the cell shading of the original and instead has its graphics redone with added bloom effects, making the two games look like a natural progression from 1 to 2 instead of the different art styles originally used in 1997 and 2001. Oh, and they're both running at 60 frames per second, so that's also an added change. This isn't exactly a bad thing at all, given that the fact that you effectively get two very similar looking games that still hold up incredibly well today, that have higher frame rates. Like I said, they're running at 60 frames per second than their original releases, and more graphically impressive and vibrant worlds. There's also an option to turn on a pixelated filter to simulate, sort of, what the original game looked like. Gameplay wise, Klonoa Door to Phantomile is your standard platformer that utilizes 2.5D, that way that it can incorporate the 2D platforming into a 3D world that is observable. But if you're familiar with 2.5D platformers and games in general, you'll understand what I mean. So there will be some platforms that you'll be able to jump on that will have the world moving around as you move about, taking you to different sections of the level, yet you're still on a 2D plane just within a 3D world, if that makes any sense. There are usually 2 or 3 routes you can take through a level that will lead you to different sections that will net you some neat goodies, as this is ultimately a collectathon platformer, with every level having a certain amount of collectibles for you to gather to 100% the stage. Klonoa can jump, do a temporary hovering ability where you press jump a second time. He can shoot his wind bullet from the ring that he has, which allows him to capture enemies and shoot them in multiple directions. The controls are incredibly simple, with you only having a jump and shoot button essentially, and yet in that simplicity lies a good amount of depth, such as having Klonoa shoot an enemy to capture them, and then jumping and shooting downward to get momentum boost upward, and then using his hover ability before following to get some additional airtime. The game really rewards those who master its controls and find unique ways in which to explore the levels and find all the secrets that they can. Boss battles are often simple encounters, with you needing to capture an enemy and shoot it at the boss's weak point roughly 5 to 6 times or so. These boss fights will have you not only dealing with the boss but regular enemies as well, with you needing to figure out the pattern of the boss in order to see what their weakness is and then beat them. Klonoa 2 is more the same as the first game, albeit with slightly better graphics and animations and a few additional mechanics added to the gameplay. One of the new mechanics is the board riding stages, where Klonoa travels on a fixed path towards the end of the level, with you needing to maneuver your way around the stage hazards and enemies. You will still be collecting hearts to refill your health meter, and also utilizing clocks at certain intervals in the stages as checkpoints. So what's new in this collection, you might be wondering? In the settings of both Klonoa 1 and 2, you can select which costumes you will want to use, such as Klonoa's outfit from the second game, and vice versa, using his outfit from the first game in the second, with a few other costumes such as a Pac-Man inspired one, and one inspired by Joka, which is one of the enemies that you run into in Klonoa, and more. You can also now select what difficulty you want to play, from easy, normal, and an unlockable hard mode. And there's also a new 2-player co-op mode, which is available in both titles, that allows you to play the game with a friend, and the second player is able to assist Klonoa. There's also a gallery mode that's available for you to check out artwork from the games and concept art, as well as a soundtrack where you can check out the OST and everything like that. So are there any downsides? Well, there aren't any real downsides, like anything as far as like technical issues, other than the rather odd voice acting that's just literally lifted straight from the original games without any enhancements, making them sound incredibly scratchy in comparison to the excellent OSTs of both games. It's rather jarring, if I'm honest, and is something I hope is re-recorded, because there's really no reason why this should just stay as it is. I mean, at least make the effort, if you're going to improve the graphics, to also improve the audio that you lifted from the original game, so it's not as awkward as it is. Aside from that, you get 2 of the most charming platformers ever made in one package. I will say that what I would have preferred is that they include the original 1997 PlayStation version of Door to Phantomile, the Game Boy Advance games, Klonoa Empire of Dreams and Klonoa 2 Dream Champ Tournament from 2001-2002 respectively, Klonoa Moonlight Madness from the WonderSwan, which also was a Japan exclusive, along with Klonoa Dream Champ Tournament, and the sole RPG in the franchise being Klonoa Heroes Densetsu no Star Metal, which never made it outside of Japan, as that would have been an entire collection of the franchise befitting of this collection's subtitle, Phantasy Reverie Series. All in all, Klonoa is back, and that is a great thing, as it could mean that we are one step closer to getting Klonoa 3 in the future, and given how well this remaster of the original 2 games has done since release, I'm confident to say that the franchise is most definitely on track to return to its former glory. Klonoa Phantasy Reverie Series is a love letter to the series fans and a welcoming entry point for a new generation of gamers to dive into this majestic franchise with a magical world to get lost in, excellent controls, remarkably charming yet challenging gameplay, memorable characters, and being available on all current platforms for anyone to pick up and play. And it just makes this a must-own game for 2022 and a welcome return to one of gaming's greatest series. And that's it. That's the review for Klonoa Phantasy Reverie Series. Again, shout out to Bandai Namco for providing a review copy of this game. I played this on Steam and I was enjoying it a lot on my Steam Deck. That was the way, my preferred way. I know I could have got it on the Switch, but because I got the Steam Deck, I'm just playing almost everything on that, almost exclusively in many ways. So, what do you guys think of Klonoa Phantasy Reverie Series? Are you a Klonoa fan? Is this your first time diving into the franchise? Are you excited to, basically see this revival? And, do you think it holds up in the modern era? Whatever your thoughts are, let's go ahead and get the conversation going in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you like the video, sub to the channel if you haven't already, and ding the notification bell. If you want to support the content that we do, make sure you head on over to patreon.com/Mekel Kasanova or become a channel member today. That way you can stay up to date on all the content I put out, as well as have behind the scenes and early access to various content I work on. Outside of that, I have merch on Teespring and TeePublic as well, so you can go check that out too. So yeah, that's it. That's the video. I'm going to be signing out and going back to playing some Klonoa, and hopefully we get more. I would love to see a Klonoa 3. But all that being said, thank you for watching. I hope you have a blessed and aloha rest of your day. And yeah, I'm signing out. Stay safe, be blessed, have some aloha, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace. Mahalo for your time. If you found this episode to be incredibly enjoyable, informative, or if there's anything you gain from it, or any insight, or anything that's good that you really enjoyed, make sure whatever platform you're listening to it on, or if you're watching it, leave a comment if that's available on the platform, like it, share it around with someone you think would enjoy it, and give us some feedback, because your feedback is exactly what we need to keep this show going. And if you're wondering what are some ways that you could support the show, we got various ways. We've got Patreon, we have channel memberships over on YouTube, as well as Subscribestar, Coffee, and so much more. Links for everything will be in the description. Check that out. And with all that being said, I hope you have an aloha rest of your day.
Let them know that I'm next level. I'm a whole new kind of guy. Yeah. Yes, at the top spot in case you forgot. We the ones that got the block hot, bullet got the shot. Yeah.